Tyler, which teams will stay and which teams will go, in your opinion? We've seen some clear favorites thus far. Philadelphia with a strong showing at home. Who has impressed and who not so much?
I was impressed by the Valiant. Obviously, they started out versus the Fuel, beat the Fuel. Really, Valiant were laughed at during the offseason. The fans were revolting because they sold all their they sold their best player space to the crosstown rival Los Angeles Gladiators. I mean, I think in any sport, any esport, people would be furious of that decision of kind of cutting and becoming a more budget team. But they look really good, and they look like a team that's better than the sum of their parts, right? Looking at the teams that I've been impressed by the most, I think Vancouver. Vancouver kind of steamrolled their first weekend in Dallas. They looked more impressive than the Shock. Obviously, the Shock only had one game, but Vancouver seems really, really focused on getting back to a final. They feel like they were embarrassed out in Philadelphia last year versus the Shock getting steamrolled in the final, and I think they're kind of on a revenge tour. Hawksall talked to me after one of the games, is basically like, no one else is playing Genji, I can play Genji because I'm the Genji master. I can always make Genji work, and he's making it work. So these guys have a huge chip on their shoulder that, the Shock, the XL might not have, and I think we're going to see a lot more of this like revenge style play from them where they're just going to be mowing down teams.
Tyler, one thing that I found interesting in the championship press conference for both Overwatch League Grand Final and the Overwatch World Cup was hearing Super talk. Super, it almost felt like he wanted a starting opportunity that he wasn't necessarily afforded, definitely throughout the season in the metas that we saw in Season 2. I'm wondering, how much of a shine do you think Super will get on the Shock this season as the meta continues to be fluid?
Reinhardt's back in meta, so Super's back in the game. Super would start on a majority of the teams in the league. He's a really good player. He's also one of the best personalities in the league, and that doesn't hurt. But Reinhardt's back in the meta, so Super's out there playing in the team over Smurf, and as you would expect, he looks extremely good. So as long as Reinhardt's in the meta, or it's not, he can play Orisa, everyone can play Orisa, but it really just comes down, if Reinhardt's in the meta, he's going to be playing a majority of the games. But I think we'll see probably a lot more of, Smurf, Super going back and forth, kind of like we saw last year. He was the star of GOATs because of, Reinhardt was an integral part of that. But I think on a team like the Shock, that's so talented from top to bottom, where, Sinatra might not be guaranteed to start every week. Architect was playing Flux support. One of the best DPS players in the league, wasn't even playing at his natural position because the team is so stacked all around with talent. So when you're on a team like the Shock that has a potential to just create a dynasty, not a soul dynasty, but an actual dynasty in the Overwatch League, you have to, you can't be egotistical, right? You can't be like, I need to start every week, I need to start every game, because the team is so talented, and with Hero Pools coming into the mix, you're going to need a lot more, and travel, because, you saw Houston Outlaws, they had the flu, and they weren't up to play last week. They had to play, but they weren't up to play and looked terrible while, under the weather. So you're going to need a lot of players at a high level, flexible enough, and able to take weeks off because of the travel schedule, that I think Super is going to get his time to shine, but he can't be overly, personal with this. You just have to take a back seat sometimes, and that's how the great teams thrive, right? The great teams are the ones who can step back when they need to and let another person shine.